So secondly, the board wanted to know, in the case of a flight already being delayed more than 30 minutes, how the distance of the flight uh, correlates with the flight arriving more or less than 15 minutes past its initial arrival time. So firstly, I just plotted this data with the y-axis having the initial delay of the flight and the x-axis having the total distance of the flight. And a blue dot is a flight that arrived more than 15 minutes past its initial arrival time, and a black dot is one that didn't. And as one can expect, there aren't many black dots the longer the flight was initially delayed. So since this is a logistic model, it's going to be giving us odds instead of probabilities. So the odds for a flight that was initially delayed 30 minutes being more or less than 15 minutes past its initial arrival time is the exponent of 3.735 minus 0.0007576 times the distance of the flight in miles. So what this means is that since that coefficient is negative, that on average, for a flight that was initially delayed more than 30 minutes, the longer the distance of the flight, the less likely it is to arrive more than 15 minutes past its initial arrival time. So these are predictions for the following distances in miles of a flight, and the odds can be interpreted as for, say, for 300. In the case of a initially delayed more than 30-minute flight being 300 miles, for every one flight in that same scenario that will arrive less than 15 minutes after its initial arrival time, and there will be 33.37 that do not. And that same logic can be applied all the way down to 2000, where you can see it's all the way down to 9.2. And so our overall accuracy was very high with a 95.36, but our sensitivity, which is the percentage of flights less than 15 minutes delayed, correctly identified, was very low, while the specificity, which is the inverse of that, was very high. So the key takeaways are, while the pilots did seem to make up time in the air, it must be a long distance flight, really 2,000 plus miles, for them to have decent odds of arriving still less than 15 minutes past the initial arrival time. And while our specificity was great, but sensitivity was extremely low, meaning that our model is really good at predicting which flights will arrive later than 15 minutes past initial arrival time, but is really bad at predicting the ones that will arrive less than 15 minutes. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to us today, and would like to open up to the board for questions.